What a beautiful day in paradise. And of course, we're lakeside, and I'm going to talk to a gentleman that you're going to find is fascinating. If you love the outdoors and you love the fish, man, he's the one that can let you know all about it. Chuck Gormley, how are you?
I'm fine, and good morning to you, Ron.
Oh, man, you've written a book. You've also, you're an outdoor person.
Yes, I have been all my life has been dedicated to some type of outdoor recreation, one or another, whether it be fishing or rock climbing or kayaking, cross-country skiing. I've done it all, I've taught it all, and certainly my greatest rewards has been introducing people to the outdoors.
Oh, that's great. And of course, you've written a book. It's called Big Bear Lake and Trout Notes.
And the Trout Notes, yes.
And I tell you, I read that last night. And if anybody wants to catch fish, this is the book that will show you how. And that really, there's a trick to fishing, isn't there? I mean, as you say in the book, the fishermen can go out to catch fish, or they can just go out to fish, and they're not going to catch it.
Exactly. There's certainly a difference between fishing and catching. And
right.
In the book, I have quoted some unknown source that I certainly believe in that says that 10% of the fishermen catch 90% of the fish.
Wow.
And I believe that that's absolutely true.
And of course, there's three types of fishing. There's still fishing, where you go out, drop an anchor from a boat, and then wait there and wait there and wait there and drink beer. Or there's trolling, or shore fishing. Those are the three basic types.
Yes.
Or you can fly fish, in your little tubes things that they have.
Ken Kern is the expert on the fly fishing, and I would recommend anybody that's interested in fly fishing to contact him.
Yeah, you bet. Well, I'll do another update on him soon.
That's Keith Kern. I said Ken Kern.
Yeah, but there's you really have to know a lot about the lake in there, you say the best way to find fish is fish finder, fish finder, fish finder.
Yes, exactly. You can be doing all the right things. You could have all the right bait. But if you're fishing where there are no fish, you're just fishing and you're not catching. It could be a relaxing, enjoyable day, but you're not going to catch any fish. And the only way to really find the fish is with an electronic fish finder.
Right.
And they do have them. You see them most commonly on boats. They look like little television screens. They're sonar units. But there is a unit that is designed for the shore fishermen that can be used on shore. The sending unit attaches to your fishing rod, and you cast it out. And there's a small monitor that you hook to your rod that looks like a little television screen, and it reads the depth, the water temperature, and it'll also indicate if there are fish there.
Wow, that is something. Now, a lot of it too is you need to know there's two things. There's oxycline and thermocline.
Exactly.
And the fish stay within those areas. So what are those?
Well, the thermocline is the water column, or the level of in the water that the fish most enjoy. And for our lake, for rainbow trout, it's between 51 and 57 degrees. Generally. They certainly go up or down to feed, but that is their optimum temperature range, and they like to be in that. And they like to have at least 5 parts per million of dissolved oxygen in the water. That's their best habitat. And that's usually where you're going to find most of the fish.
Right.
There are times of the year when that water column is very narrow, and there are times of the year where that water column doesn't even exist in some parts of the lake. And there are other parts, particularly in the fall when we get some turnover, when the entire lake has the right temperature and enough dissolved oxygen, and that's when you find the trout dispersed all over the lake and from the top to the bottom.
And they do travel in schools.
They do.
They go back and forth.
Yes, trout is a schooling fish, and they will roam. They're nomadic. They will go all over the place. They will head back to places that they get food or they feel comfortable, but they're moving most of the time, unlike bass and some of the other fish that stay in one place a lot of the time.
And I know that, is there any best way to catch fish? Still fishing or trolling or shore? Or are they all about the same if you know what you're doing?
Well, if you know what you're doing, they're all about the same. And a very popular method, a very successful method for those people fishing from boats is trolling. and it seems to be the most popular up here. And people catch a lot of fish that way. But shore fishermen account for an awful lot of fish. An awful lot of big fish caught in this lake are caught right from the shore. So it's whatever you're comfortable with, whatever resources you have. Some people just don't have access to a boat, and other people just wouldn't fish from the shore and feel that they must fish from a boat. It goes to finding the fish, presenting them with the right bait in the right manner that will cause them to strike.
Right. Now, where would you find out what the OxyCline or thermocline is? Would marinas know?
The marinas may know, but the Metropolitan Water District always knows. They put out a chart every week that I'm sure that if you asked them to, they could probably fax it to you or certainly tell it to you over the telephone. They take the temperature and the oxygen level at about 6 or 7 different points on the lake. And they may be, at some times of the year, they may be very similar. At other times of the year, they're very different from one end of the lake to the other.
Right.
Because we do have one very deep end, at least when it's full, it's 72 feet. And down near Stanfield Cutoff, it can get very shallow when the water gets much warmer.
Uh-huh. Now, when you're trolling, it's really easy. They have colors on lead lines now.
Yes.
So you can let it out, like if you need to go down 20 feet, you can let out, 3 or 4 colors?
Right. With lead line, it is colored every 10 meters or every 10 yards.
Uh-huh.
And if you're trolling at approximately 1 mile an hour, and that's the approximate speed that's most productive on this lake, you know that you're dropping down about 3 feet. There are different variables with it depending on the wind coming against you and all of that business, but that's an approximation. If you have a fish finder and you meter your fish at 20 feet, you want to fish, you want your lure to get down about 18, 19 feet. You want it just above where you're finding the fish. Trout usually look up and forward. They don't look down very often unless they're feeding off of the very bottom of the lake. So you always want your lure or your bait to be just a little bit above the fish.
Right. Now, trout is the #1 catchable fish here.
It's the most popular. It's
right.
certainly the most popular. It's certainly not the only, but it's the most
right.
popular.
We do have bass.
We have large and smallmouth bass. We have catfish and carp. Carp are carp are a menace, and Mike Stevens in the Metropolitan Water District is doing what he can to try and reduce the numbers of carp in the lake. They seem to eat anything and everything.
They're scavengers.
They're scavengers. They can disturb and cover the beds of smaller fish. We have sunfish or bluegill and crappie, and if they should happen to lay eggs, the way that the carp move around, they cover the eggs with silt, and the eggs die. And carp are one of the most prolific fish on Earth. And we have a carp roundup every year where we invite people to come and catch carp, and there's prizes given for the most carp, the most weight of carp that people can catch or shoot with a bow and arrow. But trout seems to be what draws people to Big Bear.
Right. Well, we are the premier trout fishing lake, really, of California. I don't think there's a better lake for trout.
Well, that's arguable. That's arguable, and most people that frequent other lakes sometimes believe that theirs is too. And of course, we believe that Big Bear is. But certainly, it ranks way up there as being a productive, popular lake. Certainly, one of the nicer lakes to get to in Southern California. That's in the mountains, where you're not worried about the traffic, you're not worried about the heat. People come up here to enjoy a nice day or a nice week of fishing. We have the accommodations for them when they come up on a temporary basis, and many people, myself included, chose Big Bear to retire to because of the fishery that we have up here.
Sure. And you've been fishing a long time, so you know what you're talking about.
Well, I certainly, well, that one part is definitely true. I've been fishing for a long time. I am an East Coast transplant, and I grew up fishing the streams and lakes of Pennsylvania for trout and the shorelines of New Jersey to catch striper bass and some of the other fish, albacore and tuna. So I'm both a saltwater fisherman and a freshwater fisherman.
And what's really nice that Mike Stevenson, we got to give him credit, is the introduction of more and more what they call pan-sized fish.
Right.
The bluegill,
the crappie.
The crappie.
Yeah. Exactly, and there's reasons for introducing them, and he was certainly right on when he started doing this. But the primary thing for fishermen is that they breed quickly, they multiply, they're easy fish to catch, which makes it a really good fish for kids. Kids love to catch fish. One of the things that I wrote this book for was to introduce people to catching fish so that when they do take kids out, kids can catch them. If kids don't catch fish in about the first 15 minutes to a half an hour, you just lose their attention for the most part. But if kids can catch fish, you may create a fisherman for the rest of their life.
I know it. Now tell me about the book. I mean, I went through it. It really tells you everything you need to know how to catch fish. How not to catch fish.
How not to catch fish. Yes, there are both sides to that story. The book, again, was written in what I thought was a need. There is no book that has been written, or that I know of, that's been written about catching trout in Big Bear Lake. And I worked at Alpine Sports Center for a few years, and primarily selling fishing equipment in the summertime. And people would come in and ask me, you know, where should I fish and what should I use for bait? And as in my introduction, I usually upset them by saying, well, you need to fish where the fish are, and you need to give them something that they will eat. And if what you throw them they won't eat, try something else until they will eat it. There really is a need, I believe, for every lake, every resource, water resource, to have some type of reference so that fishermen can go out there and they don't have to blindly keep trying things.
Right.
And the book is an accumulation of different techniques that has been successful in the lake. Certainly not the only ones that have been successful. I make no claims to it being the only way to catch fish, but it's certainly proven methods of catching fish in the lake. A few things about the book. I designed it in a format that would fit in a tackle box, which is kind of nice so that people could carry it along with them. I also had it done in a spiral binding so that when you open the book, it stays open and it doesn't close on you.
Right.
And I wrote it in a notebook form, thus Trout Notes. Rather than writing a lot of lengthy paragraphs, I wrote it in short bullets with some very nice illustrations by Lorraine Horwath. And it takes you through the various methods of catching the fish, whether it's shore fishing, still fishing, trolling from a boat, the various methods of trolling, the different types of lures, the colors, all of that is pretty much step by step. What I didn't do is I didn't clutter it up with a lot of unnecessary information, because if fishermen, a lot of fishermen are like me, they don't want to have to read too much clutter. They would rather just get right to the meat of the subject, and that's what I did. That's why it's limited to 100 pages. If I got a bit wordy, I could have doubled that, but I assumed that no one needed those extra words. It also has resources. In one chapter of the book, one of the last chapters of the book, is a chart with all the different resources for fishermen in Big Bear Valley, where to buy a license, where to buy bait, where to buy tackle, that type of thing. And also, courtesy of the Water District, there is one of their maps that they have graciously given me to put in the back of their book.
Sure.
I think it's of benefit to both the fishermen and to me and to the Water District, so that when people buy the book, they will have some information about the various rules and regulations that are required on the lake.
And we do have speed limits on the lake, and
yes,
when you see the buoys there, that's within, between the buoy and the shore, that's a 5-mile limit.
And fishermen in particular would certainly wish that all boaters would adhere to that regulation.
Right.
It doesn't always happen. In this lake, though, I have found that boaters, other recreational boaters, water skiers, wakeboarders can get along, and both of them can accomplish what they're trying to do during the day without interfering with each other.
Now, if you're in a boat and you see a boat ahead of you and it has a white flag in it, you really need to stay clear. How far behind? Because he's trolling.
Right. When he's trolling, they say to stay at least 100 feet behind a boat. A white flag is not a surrender flag by fishermen. It is an indication to everyone that they are trolling line behind their boat. They request 100 feet, but I would suggest that you give them as wide a berth as you could possibly give them. And in return, fishermen will try and not cut across a water skier or a wakeboarder's tow line, which doesn't happen very often.
Right. Well, I tell you, it's fun. Fishing is great, relaxing, relieves your stress, and when you catch fish, it's fun.
It's fun.
I'd like to say that there is a limit, particularly on trout, which is five per day.
Right, and there is no closed season. You can fish all year round, but please, please do not go on the ice. in the wintertime.
Right.
There's no successful ice fishing in Big Bear Lake. A century ago there isn't any longer.
And there's a $500 fine if they get you on the list.
And that too.
Yeah. Well, it's springtime now. It's fishing time, and the lake is open all year long.
All year long.
24 hours a day. You can do night fishing, whatever you want.
Right. And night fishing is very productive.
Is it really?
Yeah, for trout it is very productive.
Wow, very good.
It is a time when there are very few boats on the water. It is a time when the wind usually dies down. And if you go about it correctly, which is usually putting some type of light over the side of your boat, which is perfectly legal, it can be very productive for trout at nighttime. And lots of shore anglers find it very productive in the shallow end of the lake for catching catfish at night. It's a very popular activity.
Now, you can eat catfish from here?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Absolutely.
I understand. They're not muddy like a lot of the river catfish are.
Right. Yeah, there's catfish is certainly edible, and it's sold in the supermarkets. They're
That's
raised
right.
in farms and sold to supermarkets. But catfish caught in Big Bear Lake is perfectly edible. All the fish are.
Great. Okay, well, our time is getting short, so anyway, let's tell people how they can get a copy of this valuable book. I mean,
Okay. The book is available at some of the local bookstores, at Book and Bean, at Edelweiss. Both are in the village. Big Bear Sporting Goods, Big Bear Marina when it opens in the near future, Big Bear Sporting Goods, and certainly the Discovery Center has been selling a number of the books. It just came out in the fall, and thus a fishing book in the fall in Big Bear is not necessarily what people buy, but sales are certainly starting to pick up. And I would hope that everybody would at least give it a look. And those people that do read the book, particularly those very experienced fishermen, I welcome any type of comments, hopefully constructive criticism, any type of comments. Or people can contact me. My name is Chuck Gormley, and they can call me directly at 585-2642, and I'd be happy to ensure that they get a book.
Oh, great. And it's only $16. The best $16 investment you'd ever have.
Well, I hope so. I believe that the book is very reasonably priced for what it provides. And if you look at the cost of the trade paperbacks these days, that's not an expensive price.
That's
for
not.
a book.
Once again, your phone number if they want to contact you.
909-585-2642.
Great. Thanks so much. So there you have it, folks.
There you go. Thank you
Let's
very
go
much.
fishing.
There you go.
Chuck Gormley, thanks so much for the interview.
You're quite welcome. And Ron, thank you.
Okay. Well, I hope you learned how to fish. And the main thing is to get Chuck's book, because it tells you how to really catch fish, folks. So that's it from Lakeside here. We're at the Pine Knot Marina, and it's just a wonderful, beautiful day just before the launch ramps open up for the fishing season. So that's it. Now don't go away. Stay tuned. I'll be back right after these messages from my sponsors.